In May 1991, it seemed like a really good idea to make a documentary about the New Musical Express. Now, in May 92, with the paper celebrating its 40th birthday, we thought it would be quite a good idea to crowbar the old programme back into the schedules, as it leaves a nice repeat fee for me. Now, at the time that we made the programme, these were the facts. The Stone Roses were fighting a court case to free themselves from Silvertone Records. Bob Dylan was approaching his 50th birthday. The Manic Street Preachers weren't even a twinkle in Top of the Pop's eyes, and Sounds had just closed down. Their only real rival left was Melody Maker, which was housed one floor above them. So this is what was happening when I went down to make the programme. Also, and not only, we thought it would be a really, really good idea to speak to as many famous old journalists from the New Musical Express to try and get all sorts of different angles on what had been happening throughout its history. And to begin with, we tacked on to Paul Morley.
Very sad. Have you sort of told Paul vaguely about the programme?
Not at all, no.
Do you want to know?
Yeah, go on.
Feeling your way.
Who you've talked to, I sort of want to know.
Oh, who have we talked to? We've just talked to Charles Shaw Murray.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a chat to Tony Parsons.
Oh, did you?
And who else have we had a chat to? Danny Baker.
Danny.
And the people who are working on the paper at the moment.
Oh, God.
Talking to Neil Spencer tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, Neil.
And Julie Birchall on Wednesday.
That's amazing.
You say that's amazing, was it?
She never speaks in public, does she? It's got to be a full-page ad you've got to take out somewhere to publicise that.
Do you want to do us an ident, Paul? If you just tell us who you are and what you do. Come on, seriously, internet.
I'm Paul Morley, and as I put on my census form when they asked me what my occupation was, I think.
Clever bastard.
It'll be in the great census forms of the 20th century, but edited by Barry Quine. You know, so it's all a big joke.
Anyway, what we're doing, making a documentary about the NME.
Yeah.
We've been in there for a week.
You've been in there?
We've been in there in the offices for a week. Sort of scuttling around with tape recorders and things.
Yeah.
If you made a programme about the NME,
Yeah.
what would you focus on? What would you look at?
Christ. I don't know. I wouldn't make a programme on the enemy.
Hello, here's a message for that nice Andrew Collins. It's Judy at Radio 1 Publicity here. Just wondered if you fancy going to see Ned's Atomic Dustbin in Brighton next Monday. Speak to you later. Bye.
There we go.
Right, well, I'm Andrew Collins, and I am a sort of dynamo of the office.
You're the dynamo. What do you do?
A dynamo. I am acting features editor. That's officially, that means I act like a features editor.
And you've just handed us, this is Tuesday morning in the office.
It is. It's the greatest moment of the week, because this is when this week's paper comes in. You can hear it rattle in there. This is it. This is when we flick through it. This is only marginally less exciting as when Melody Maker comes in and we look at that and laugh at it.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm Danny Baker and I'm on telly. That's it, isn't it? That's what I do.
When were you with the New Musical Express?
Between 1978 and 1982/3, I mean.
Why did you want to join it?
Because it's hard to realise now, but it was the only thing that wrote with any intelligence. It didn't have journalists, it had writers. And they were very, very, very sure of themselves. And I think when you're in them ages I'm talking about, anything that's very, very sure of himself is wildly attractive.
But it's, for now, a fairly exciting moment, because we flick through it and go, cool, look at that.
What's on the front
Isn't that
cover?
marvellous?
Just tell us what's on.
Morrissey's on the front cover, because this is 1985. And no, this is a good cover, because it is a good story. We finally, after a lot of farting about, got the Morrissey interview in Berlin, I think it was, by our top feature writer, Stuart McConey, who will be coming in later to talk in a foppish manner to you, probably.
Is this sort of like the beginning of the week now, then?
It is really. Yesterday's a bit of a sort of void day. Loads of work goes on yesterday, but it all happens down the typesetters, where the production people actually put this issue together, and then overnight it's printed out and put into black and white. So today is the start of next week, if you see what I mean.
So Tuesday's your Monday?
Yeah, by all accounts. Yesterday is a bit of a sort of sit around and be glad that I'm not a production editor day, really.
It's very difficult to talk from the perspective of 33, 34 years old. Birthday next week. It's very difficult to realise how much LPs can mean to you. And they meant a lot then. So when you're in your late teens and early 20s, rock and roll matters a lot. That was the importance of it, because being a teenager, sort of you want to get into clubs, rock and roll being the hippest of the clubs, and NME being the representative at our level of that. The NME had it right. The NME had cool in the old-fashioned sense, and the NME didn't let anyone write for it.
I'm James Brown. I'm not the featured editor. I'm the assistant editor of NME.
And Tuesday morning here.
Tuesday morning's the only day the writers bother to come in, really. They're supposed to bring their articles in, they invariably don't. They come in and pick up the paper, and we sit down, have an editorial meeting. It's good in a way, because everyone gets rid of their hangovers on a Monday, and then you get to work Tuesday quite fresh. But it's certainly the busiest day in terms of the amount of people who come through the office.
You just got out.
You were just in this fantastic world all of a sudden. Everything you ever wanted. You could meet your stars. You had the power of God. You had this kind of second-hand glamour that was very exciting to someone who never felt that he would ever have any glamour. By rubbing off these great personalities and writing about them and getting to meet them and having your picture in the paper, that wonderful picture you posed so hard for in the photo booth around the corner as you took in your singles column. You tried to look like Richard Hell and ended up sort of looking like Reckless Eric.
And what's going to happen in the editorial meeting we're just about to go into?
Well, the editor will run through what we've got. We'll talk about the stories we're doing this week. We'll look at what reviews we're concentrating on.
When's the meeting going to start?
Now, we should go in. They'll want me round everyone up.
Okay.
See, I do telly now, and I'm known for telly, and I've been doing telly 11 years, and I've been all over the world, and I've got all my mates. But when I think about the NME, that was when I had my shoes off, and I was just right. That was a great time. That was the, God knows what readers made of it. That paper was written every week for ourselves. We used to get in the editorial and we'd laugh at headlines and be competitive, but it was written for us, by us, and it was very, very funny. It was very, very good as well.
Right, shall we begin? I guess first of all, I should say that the people with microphones you see around you are from Radio 5. We have, however nervously, agreed to let them come and do a fly-on-the-wall documentary for the whole week. So unless you're absolutely sure that you don't want them near you because you're doing something very important and very quickly, please try and cooperate. We'll show you drugs to them, sure. Try not to be too cruel about the management or whatever, because we all have to earn our living here. And if you find you haven't been paid for 3 weeks, come and tell me rather than them. All right, and we'll see what can be done about it. I've been telling people around the office, but I'm going to repeat it because I wanted to go out on the air, that the first figures post sounds are starting to filter back to this office. The first sort of feelings we've had back are that we've done rather better than the other paper at picking up the sounds readers. So, welcome sounds readers. Which takes us on to this week's issue, which is, if Cummins was here, he would say there was an element of retro zeitgeist about it, but it is Bob Dylan's birthday. He's 50 this week, or next week rather, and we've got a variety of, I think, reasonably good ways of dealing with that. Yeah. Instead of doing 10,000 words on why Bob Dylan is the greatest rock and roll star of all time, we've gone for a whole lot of odd little things. We're doing two groups, just a small piece on each, both Bob and the Dylans. And that's it.
Okay, start here. My name is Charles Shah Murray. I am a media parasite of some 20 years standing, and for more time than I care to think about, I was a staff writer for the New Musical Express.
And we've gone out and talked to people whose lives have actually been changed by him. Swells has done 5 Bob Dylan experts. Now, I haven't seen this piece, and I suspect it would need to be quite short because it's just a lot of very, very tedious people talking in very, very tedious detail about Bob Dylan, with, I suppose, with Swells saying you're every 15 seconds in the piece.
Okay, are we rolling, Bob?
Yeah, we're rolling, Bob.
My name's Neil Spencer, and I'm a freelance writer and journalist. But I was the editor of the NME. I was that soldier.
When did you join the NME?
I first wrote for the NME around 1973.
Bill has interviewed Keith Floyd, the Epicurean and cookery man, who claims to be a big Bob Dylan fan, but is in fact rather more keen on talking about himself. And he's given us a Bob Dylan recipe. And the publishing first here is he has given. We asked him, what would you do for Bob Dylan's birthday? If he came in the door now, what recipe would you do for him? So it can be made by anybody. It's a very simple recipe, but I think it'll be picked up by the national papers, which is good. Yeah. But it involves lifting the trees off the toast.
It's a protest now.
The third.
I first started to write about music in the Oz School Kids issue of 1970, and by dint of unashamed networking managed to spread myself around various other underground magazines of the period. And some of the stuff I was doing there was spotted by the unsung hero of the NME 70s era, Tony Tyler. And they came and said, would you like to write for the NME? I accepted with alacrity, and suddenly found that I now had the possibility to annoy more people at one time than I'd ever previously considered possible.
The cover image, however, will not be the 49-year-old, 363 days old Bob Dylan, but the Pet Shop Boys in Prague, which according to James went horribly well, and they are the greatest rock and roll band in the world, etc., etc. Yeah?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
And you'll need, obviously, colour and space for that, yeah?
3 pages.
Good.
Well, I used to read it when I was really young, back in the 1960s, you know, as a little tiny Beatles fan. I didn't think it was very good because it didn't have colour pin-ups like Rave magazine. It was a little bit antique even then, but it was okay.
Stuart McConey then has, that's Stuart McConey, ladies and gentlemen. Stuart McConey has a problem. He promised me 100 Morrissey references, lyrics where he got them from,
Yep.
and so far he's compiled 12, and I've trailed it for next week's paper.
No, we've got. I want to throw this up to other people's experience. Morrissey, as we all know, takes loads of his titles, loads of lyrical references from books, plays, films. If you know any, come and let me know, because
you don't.
No, I
Pop papers were basically frivolous rubbish about frivolous rubbish. I mean, I will burn in hell for this, but it was crap before I arrived, honest. Now, if you're not going to lash me up with selective editing here, I'd like to go on to say that
The NME was a pop sheet that had not coped with the transition to rock, unlike Melody Maker. And so it was about to collapse in the early 70s when IPC bought it and reinvented it. Alan Smith, who came in as editor, recruited a lot of people and a lot of attitudes from the underground press. And the underground press, of course, was one of the major influences on the NME that emerged in the early 70s.
On, Steve?
On is Stereo Lab and Moonshake. They're the top two names this week.
Frank Zappa's Children, excellent. Live section.
Live section.
Here we go.
It's the wedding present in Ireland with their new guitarist. And the big fight, it's the Manic Street Preachers in
versus
Norwich.
Steve Lamacq.
Yes.
Right.
basically what happened was that Nick Logan, who was inside, had sort of opened the back door and allowed the barbarians in.
Why are you reviewing them?
Precisely because they hate me and I hate them, and they hate themselves, and I hate them hating themselves.
The idea was to make NME into a literate, radical rock read, to be challenging, to kick over a few apple carts.
Have you taken them up on their offer to go up in the van with them?
I'm trying to get out of going in the van with them, really.
It's horrible in that van.
It's horrible in the van.
It is, honestly. It was
but-
a wash with sick when I got in it. Oh.
You know, it was like, we've got control of this thing, let's have some fun.
That's it for me.
What was the difference writing for Oz and IT?
Well, at the New Musical Express, nobody actually had sex in the office.
That's
10
it.
minutes.
Things were very, very different then. I mean, the music business had not really started to eat the mainstream media in the way it has now. Nobody advertised jeans with rock and roll songs in the 1970s.
Hello, it's Tuesday. Message for Stuart McCooney from Ariane Coke, BBC Radio 4, about whether you are able to talk to me about classical music in pop. Look forward to hearing from you shortly.
Rewind and do it again.
But just pretend I'm not here.
All right. So this is Thrills discussion.
Now?
This is this week's Thrills that
But I won't
we're
look at
looking
it, then
at.
it'll all be fresh and I won't have to affect.
Yeah. So Stuart, this is what I've done for Thrills so far this week.
So we'll do a Thrills Believe It or Not.
Yeah.
We have a thing called Thrills Believe It or Not, which some people seem to have misunderstood and taken to be true. We find that a lot of things we print in Thrills, believe it or not, turn up in certain tabloid newspapers. Do you want to finish that one?
Yeah, can I say which tabloid newspaper?
No. Hello.
Yes, I think we can, because it is a true fact. In the Daily Mirror, Rick Sky, who writes the pop column, took some facts, which were joke facts from our Thrills, believe it or not, file, which were deliberately stupid facts. Or his researchers took a couple and actually printed them as true facts.
Do you want to talk to someone called Tom? No.
No, I don't want to talk to this person.
He's not available anymore. Can I get him to ring you back?
Top level corruption.
All right then. Because some of the things that they've reprinted are so patently ludicrous, like Tanita Tickerham is the star in a forthcoming Hollywood biopic of the medium Doris Stokes. You've got to be very stupid, very stupid indeed to believe that's true.
Sorry, could you just give us that again?
Well, the whole lot?
Yeah, just.
Okay. Gina Morris, I write for the NME. Occasional feature, lives mainly, albums, Paradise, whatever I like, I'll write about it.
And I thought of another one. Richie Blackmore, XD Purple guitarist, is one of the few non-professionals to have an authenticated 147 break at snooker.
Yeah, that's good.
What about that?
We'll have that, yeah. We also need 3 more Big Mouth.
Right, okay.
Big Mouth is the quote section that we pick up frothy quotes from around the globe and run them 6 a week.
Where do you get them from?
Q.
It's a gang, and if you don't fit in on many more levels, for the NME you don't have to just write well, but secondly you have to be seen a lot, go and see new bands, you know, have a genuine mad enthusiasm for music. You have to fit in well with the rest of the people, which as a female, and as generally the only female about the office half the time, is pretty difficult because a lot of the conversation degenerates to sex a lot of the time, and I just sneak away quietly in the corner. It's like a boys' club, it's like a boys' own sometimes.
Really?
Seriously, I mean, it is boys' own they start talking about.
It's what?
Yeah, it is. It's a white male paper aimed at white males, featuring white male bands.
And there's an awful lot of that with the enemy readership. I mean, they are
the
incredibly
NME
male, you know.
It is.
As are most of the writers, it's a perennial problem. But you know, the fan base to which NME sells, right? It's mostly young, working class boys who make that music.
I mean, how many people went to university, for example?
A lot of them. I look like people like Swells, which shows I think more than anyone else.
Why did you say that?
Because he's such an arrogant little git. He's lovely, but he's an arrogant little git.
I'm not that liberal, I suppose. I'm the Pol Pot of the paper, and the fact is that with few exceptions, of those bands that the NME fans most want to read about, and I think that I won't get in any trouble saying this because people know that, I think the taste of the average NME reader is appalling. I mean, look at the bands over the years they've voted as their favourite bands. U2. New Order. I mean, do me a favour. Morrissey, the Smiths. We're talking crap. We're talking serious crap. Their taste has always been appalling, and they've always gone for, you know, for bands with white boys in.
We're looking for Morrissey references, Morrissey lyrics that he's nicked from films, plays, titles, things like that. We've got loads, but we'll have that in actors. We'll have that in cover stars and actors. Yeah. But we'll write it down anyway. Susie Birchall.
I love a lot of videos.
Julie Birchall.
Susie Birchall.
Right.
We're doing well here now.
Because I need that stuff because we are on the schedule from hell this week.
Right.
We're doing it.
We're doing it as quickly as
I
we
know,
want.
I know.
Sheila Take a Bow. If it's about Sheila Delaney, why didn't you spell it right?
Sheila Takes a Bow. It's about Nigel Kennedy.
All right.
You're going off to interview the wedding present?
I am going off to interview the wedding present.
In Dublin?
In Dublin. First trip to Ireland. I've never been there before. So I'm really looking forward to that. Wedding present. A few good stories about the wedding present which I want to dig up.
Like what?
Ooh, I want to ask David Gedge why he chatted me up one day at this gig.
Hi, I wanted to get through to Fred Della.
Oh, I'm Fred Della. I write the Fred Fat column for the NME, and I've been here 20 years, would you believe? Really? 5 editors have gone, or I haven't a golden age, but readers have, and I think for readers, it was really somewhere in between about, 75 and maybe 79, when we had Julie Birchall, Tony Parsons.
The NME to me is a figment of Nick Logan's imagination. Nick Logan realised that something was stirring, something was brewing, and that was punk, and that was new wave. And he also knew that the writers that he had couldn't cover it. They couldn't do it with the same kind of conviction. So they stuck an ad at the back of the paper, hip young gunslingers wanted. And there were about 4,000 or 5,000 people that applied for the job. It was 2 jobs. And you had to send along a sample of your work. And I'd had a novel published when I was very young, when I was like 19, called The Kids, embarrassingly enough. And so that got me onto a shortlist of 15. And then I went up to the NME and I met Nick Logan. And he said, well, you're going to get one of the jobs, and I'm going to give the other job to either a boy in Manchester or a girl in Bristol. And the girl was Julie Burchill, and the boy was Paul Molley. And Julie got the job.
Well, when I was 16, I was at school, and I hated being at school. I was very bored. And I used to read The NME, and I'd been reading it since I was 12, because they had lots of things about Mark Bolan, who I loved at the time. And I would become sort of hooked to the NME. There was something about the paper I loved. I loved the writing, and I loved the sense of this other world which was out there somewhere, because I came from a very conventional working class background, and I somehow didn't fancy it even when I was 12. And it seemed to me that somehow, in a way, I could not quite yet comprehend that this was going to be an escape route for me.
Morning update. What's happened, Edric?
What's happened overnight? A fantastic thing has happened, which I would fear to tell you the actual names of, but it involves a top star who we have not interviewed for a long time, and we very much like to interview. Somebody here has secured probably 99% an interview with that person, and we're now waiting for this to be confirmed.
Who's it?
I can't tell you.
Why?
Because you could take this tape upstairs and tell them there's no way they must ever know, so I can't even say
I'm
the
not
words.
we're not going to do it, Andrew.
We could, bro, couldn't we?
We're not going to, though. We're not going to go and take it up to...
There's the pause button. Oh no, I'll go and check first.
It was a great culture shock for a 16-year-old girl who was literally a virgin from the provinces to come up and suddenly be dropped in the middle of all this. The nearest equivalent I can think of is Marianne Faithfull and the Rolling Stones, you know, to just suddenly come up from the provinces and bang, one day you're in school doing double maths looking out the window, and next day you're like sitting on Chrissie Hynde's lap and snorting amphetamine sulfate through a £50 note in the back of the Sex Pistols van. Literally from one week to the next, this was happening to me.
The policy decision has come down.
Yeah, it's self-protection. Self-protection, so, and it's not because I think you're going to go and tell them, but you'd be amazed what things filter through. There are some people up there.
You're talking about Melody Maker?
Yes, I'm talking about Melody Maker. I don't know whether I'm supposed to be saying this or not.
He's going like the editor walks past.
The editor walks past and raises an eyebrow.
It seems like there's a little sort of state of apartheid between you and Melody Maker.
Yeah, but it's a joke one, you know. Nobody gets hurt, you know. If only real apartheid was like ours. Sort of jokey, friendly rivalry that didn't actually spoil anyone's lives, then it would be alright, wouldn't it? Simple minds could split up.
My name's Yestin George. I'm news editor of the NME.
What are you looking for this week?
Off the top of my head, it's only Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday are the basically 12-hour days of horrible, nightmarish activity. At the moment, I don't really know. You know, anything. Morrissey changes shoelaces. You know, that's news. Anything like that.
You've no Smith's trivia, have you, for us? Kevin?
Kevin, most trivial Smith man in the world.
Stuart, just because it's been recorded, you don't have to speak in that camp Manchester accent.
As though you picked it up from Morrissey while recently interviewed him.
No.
Unfortunately, I just managed to forget everything we said has been taped until you said that then.
Oh,
and now we'll go back. Now we'll have to go back to that wooden and stilted. Gosh, you're looking smart today, David. Dialogue.
Talk to Logan.
No, I didn't.
Did you ask him?
We asked him.
He's a very difficult man. I never liked him. But he was a great editor. And most good editors aren't likeable at all, you know? And after that, it was a series of likeable guys who were absolutely crap at their job. So, you know, you take your choice.
Urgent setting. NME cover lines. What's the issue dated?
25th of May.
Hey, that's the name of a band, isn't it?
Hey. Hey. Should have had them in it. Right.
Now, this is what you're hearing now is a very difficult, strange moment, because most magazines, again, they are content to write on their cover a list of things they've got. We are expected to be funny about it, or who are controlled bloody misses or what.
Yeah, it's true.
Right, now, the cover line.
Pet Shop Boys in Prague.
Yeah,
we do think they're good.
You think they could?
Yeah. See, I told you there's no policy line on it. You don't think they could, but we still put one on it.
It's fair to say.
We had them on the cover Christmas 8. Well, we didn't, but you did. You who ran the paper in '86. You had them on the cover then.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you didn't see them for years in the paper, because they're so objected to the cover line. That
which was?
Well, it was Queen's Award for Industry.
Yeah.
There's a story about you erecting sort of barbed wire around part of the office.
We had a little. We didn't call it an office. We called it a bunker. Because it was called the Kinder Bunker, children's bunker. And now I don't think there was any barbed wire. I think there was a few modest fragments of broken glass to keep out evil spirits. That was about it.
There is always, at any given time, about 25% of the upper echelons of Rock's Disserati who are not talking to us. So sometimes it looks like we're not talking to them, but in fact, it's always that they're not talking to us.
That's true. We've been blanked for quite a long time by a pop star.
We were.
Right.
And, you know, this mystery thing that you're so keen to hear about is another case in point where, after several months now of non-communication, we're going to try and patch it up. Because after all, it's a beautiful thing to hold hands with the enemy.
Well, we called it the Kinder Bunker, and what we did, because we hated the rest of the people on the paper already, so we glued all around the top barbed wire, glass, things. We had a noose, we hung keep out, things like this. And sometimes we used to peep over the top of this barbed wire. We used to get lighted cigars, and the two people in the room next to us was Charlie Murray and his friend, and they both had afros, and we'd see their heads bent down over their desks. It was terrible looking back, and we used to flick cigar butts at them and see we got lighted their hair to set on fire, which we shouldn't have done, but as I say, we were very childish.
Oh God, Pet Shop Boys. So what you wanted? Check Out Boys or something?
James suggests that as they're notorious shoppers, that it should be something about Checkout Boys.
Checkout Boys is quite good.
What does it mean?
Nothing.
It was like a second childhood, because there were not too many 21-year-old men that could hang out with, punk rock icons all night, taking drugs, and then write an angry piece about police brutality in the morning.
God, this is a real hard one.
I know the finest minds of a generation around one table, struggling. It's something as simple as this.
It's very difficult, you know. You have your time. Nick Kent and Charles Shaw Murray were not old men when I joined the NME at all. I think they were like 24. But to a certain extent, they'd had their time, and other people had their time a bit later.
Well, we're not allowed to take Stuart away, are we? Because he's Morrissey, you know?
No. We have to do this ourselves.
He's a good third person.
It's nice to have him fopping about.
And it was a very intense, very volatile atmosphere at the paper. You could put a lot of creative, talented people together, very young. You give them a lot of drugs and drink, which the record companies did at that time. I think the music business is very different now. Then some sparks fly.
Checks. Yeah, check cards.
Shock, horror, drugs, etc. I mean, that's one of popular music's functions, isn't it?
Pop music is providing
a focus for dissidents.
What river is Prague on?
This is an executive test.
An education system in this country.
The
Kenneth
Danube.
Clark is right. No, it's not the Danube, but at least you know the name of a European river, which is one up on it. It's not the Elbe.
Is it on the Elbe?
It is, yeah.
James definitely wouldn't know. If I don't know, you don't know.
James wonders what that big body of water out there is. Come on, show us. It's a huge river, man. It's the fourth biggest river in Europe.
I represent the readers, and I don't know what
Bohemia.
Bohemia.
They are definitely
Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's it.
Bohemian, something like Rhapsody.
It seems more hormonal to me, to be rebellious. I don't think it's political.
Bohemian.
Medic!
On the contrary, that's all part of capitalism. Capitalism invented the teenager and has been selling it things ever since.
Are they in any way rhapsodic?
Yes, very much so on the new stuff. It's very autumnal and rhapsodic.
Luckily.
When you rebel, you're doing exactly what capitalism wants you to do, because you're then buying a whole new set of products that you have to buy to be a teenager.
There's no pun on
What's
Rhapsody.
the impressionist composer? What's he in French? Wrote Submerged
Debussy.
Cathedrals.
Debussy.
Yeah. Because he was rhapsodic. And all
They're
the old
into
Debussy in a big way.
Bohemian Rhapsodies. If you just don't want to change from the Queen title, why not have Bohemian Rhapsodies?
And of course, it's bringing the word Queen to mind straight away, and there they are. Top.
Fantastic. Right.
Bohemian Rhapsodies.
That's what Rhapsody is. Pet Shop Boys, check out Prague.
All I learned to do at the NME was fill on my expense and take drugs. But I wouldn't say I learned my trade there, no. I think that came much, much, much later. I was too busy having a good time when I was at the NME to learn my trade. But don't forget, I left when I was 19.
A lot of punk's ideology, a lot of its direction came from the music press. It was a mutual relationship, you know? It wasn't just us saying, this is happening. We make things happen. The Manic Street Preachers, right? We have hyped the Manic Street Preachers. I am proud of that, right? I don't give a toss if all their records have been crap so far, right? They are arrogant, snotty, sexy and exciting. And they are worth 10 pages of boring old Morrissey, because there are a lot of boring old Morrissey fans out there. And that's something that the people in the music press have got to realise, that they're not just commenting on what's happening, they're part of it.
He's adjusted to it all. 1, 2, 3.
Just say it's trivial. No one's
If you do a Thursday morning.
Oh, there we are, Thursday morning, just walked into the NME immediately. Big buzz going round, Andrew Collins sitting here saying, oh, something's happened, and what is it?
The thing that's happened, right, is that last night Steve Lamacq went up. Where did you go?
Norwich.
He went to Norwich to do a planned live review stroke feature on the Manic Street Preachers, right?
It certainly wasn't what I was expecting was going to happen.
And anyway, Steve was a bit suspicious of them, so it was going to be this sort of, not a backlash, but he was going to suggest that maybe they're not all they're cracked up to be. And anyway, went up there, saw the gig.
You won't get much coherent sense out of me, I'm afraid.
And you know what they're like, these sort of young punks, basically, sort of return of punk. And a lot of people are very suspicious of them, think they're all sort of just faking it in slogans and trying to get rich and famous, and they're not really being serious. So Steve did half an hour of chat with, which one was it? Richie?
Yeah.
Richie.
You know, we were supposed to sort of hate each other and everything. I was a bit nervous, I suppose.
And after this half hour of chat, after which they agreed to disagree, you know, Steve says, I'm not convinced by you. Well, you know, fair enough. We'll leave it at that. He said, do you want to tell him or just... No, I'll tell him.
Richie said, you know, you've got a minute, come backstage. Just one last thing I'd like to say. And so we went backstage, and you know, I said, you know, I just don't think a lot of people will think you for real. And he got I don't know where he got it from. He got a razor blade and wrote "for real" on his arm, down the side of his arm, while I was standing there watching him. And that's about it, really.
So, like, this is quite interesting already. This is good. This is good story.
We actually said, like, at the time, you know, believe me, we are for real, and we're not the next Birdland. And we sort of carried on talking for about another 3 or 4 minutes. And but by that time, he was like dripping blood all over the floor. You know, it's beginning to stain the carpet a bit.
And everybody will have a reaction to this story. He said, unfortunately, Ed Sears didn't get any pictures of it.
I had to wind it up. Went out and you know, found the manager, told him to get backstage pretty damn quick.
So we think, oh, never mind, tell the story, Steve. So the page that it was going to go on will be taken up with this story. Then Ed Sears arrives with colour pictures of this awful event.
So roadies rushed around and lashed some bandages around him, and I whipped the camera and they took the bandages off for me very quickly so that they could have it.
So he actually said, oh, I'm going to take the...
Oh yeah, I didn't have to suggest it.
Close-up, nasty, gory pictures of this blood, and it's an appalling picture, and everybody's running around, getting upset and appalled and excited.
He actually said, do you want to photograph this?
So yeah, I better take the bandages off. Which had just been put on, so it was mint.
So you got a mint wound?
Oh yes.
And question is, can we print this picture? Because it is really horrible. I find it extremely horrible. He's upset. People down there are upset. Grown people are upset by this picture. It is an horrible picture. Danny, as I say, Danny's in a meeting. He hasn't seen it yet. He's going to be jumping around. You know, it's a bit of news, even if you could say it's trivial. Like I say, within our little world, it is not trivial. It's quite a thing.
How do you feel about all this?
I don't really think I've quite got over the shock of it, really.
Do you in any way regard it that you may be responsible for that in any way, because he did it for you, almost?
No, not really. He chose to do it. He chose to make his point in that way. I don't think, you know, I don't find it kind of feel guilty about the fact that he's done it, you know. Don't know. It's been one hell of a week now.
Morning, Danny.
Danny, get down there and find out what we've got. Bloody colour pictures of the mutilation. And it's just too horrible to look at. You'll faint.
The guy's sick.
Well, but I know, but I'm in the publishing paper, aren't I? You've got to see it. It's a very
There's
important
no way
thing.
you can print those photos.
Well, that's
You'll get all their photos doing the same thing.
rubbish, Karen. It's a really delicate issue.
More people see Gore, right?
Well, I'm in charge of. I am the Gore editor.
You had anything to eat this morning?
Yeah, thanks.
It says for real, Dan.
Oh
It
my
doesn't say to.
That's Danny Kelly,
saw
doesn't
the R,
it?
the E, in the first place.
For real.
I don't think
It's a problem, isn't it? Well, no, it's not a problem.
You don't think it is?
These things happen, Andrew.
Yeah, I know,
It's
no.
a newspaper, not...
Good man, that's what I mean.
This is what Ed was saying.
Print them, Danny.
What do you think about them?
I think they're disgusting.
I think they're absolutely sick.
But I can see.
It's revolting.
I mean, it's just shock horror, isn't it?
You wouldn't take a picture of a photograph.
No.
Well, I'm not, but it's a music paper, isn't it?
Self-inflicting.
Yeah, I know,
Perhaps, what if we convert them to black and white and just use them in black and white? The colour's too graphic, isn't it? It's just awful.
What's going to do next? Take his phone.
I hope it. Well, maybe they'll all cut each other's heads off, and that'll be an end to it.
Hi, Philip, it's Yestin. All right then. You know about last night and all that. Obviously, everything's going berserk here. You know. I mean, we're going to do a new story on it. So, have you got any details about Inge?
I don't know. It's illegal, but like it's not my. I'm only the scum assistant, so I don't get to. It's not my decision. It'll be Danny's decision because it's quite, you know. It's up to him to take responsibility. I'm going to say I'm not happy to take responsibility for a story like that.
Andrew, you must be there. You've been on the phone all morning.
Can you tell us what you're doing now?
I'm working on the cover. Basically, you have to put the try to get the picture with the composition when the faces are in the middle, or looking at the camera, something like that. And the main problem for us in terms of layout is to not destroy the photographer's work.
We photographers appreciate the pressures that designers are under to kind of make room for all those columns of white print.
Unfortunately, we can't have covers without insert or without type on it, or very, very rarely. It's a compromise between the photographer's work and the commercial market.
And the NME is a newspaper. It's not a style magazine. It's not a Space, and it's not any of these sort of more indulgent.
Right,
James.
where are these photographs? There it is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm all right. If you can handle it. What the butler saw.
That's nothing.
That's my man. That's my man.
We were expecting.
Come and stand in this corner.
Doesn't say T-Rex anyway. Spell it wrong. It doesn't say,
Dyslexic.
It doesn't say T-Rex. It says T-R-E-A.
Well, what do you think? It's coming from Welsh, isn't it?
Yeah, it could be one statement.
Of course, you've got to print that. It's rock and roll, isn't it?
This is self-mutilation, though, James.
I think it's an excellent photograph. Good one, Ed. I bet Mark Ellen will print it.
I don't think we should print it.
God, I should. I think we more bands should do that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, very clever.
I do.
Oh yeah. Well, you like the Pet Shop, but you're expecting them to do.
Come on with the model stuff, because we have people smoking in the paper every week. We have people smoking in the paper every week. We have people like Jack, who used to work here, glorifying drugs for weeks on end.
Yeah, but all
We've had a letter E on the cover when he was the national
one
symbol for
kid,
ecstasy.
Is one child to copy that
Come on, I think.
and kill themselves, and you're.
You wouldn't kill yourself cutting yourself on your forearm.
You could if you missed.
If that was
No,
bad. Did he faint, Ed?
Yeah. I just think it's ludicrous and childish, and we don't have to.
Yeah, but nobody says that about bloody Sid Vicious, do they?
No, I think all the mileage has got out of
Well,
Sid Vicious.
we've been through that before. Why should we? It's like rewriting history. It doesn't have any interest. I mean,
Well, not to you, Mark, because you maybe have seen it before, maybe you passed it.
Well, yeah, probably. And I'm pleased to be old, I tell you.
I mean, Sid Vicious only took it from Iggy Pop. It doesn't seem to be T-Rex, though.
No, it's for real. It's the letter 4.
Oh, yeah, because it looked like treat or something.
You're not trying to make the differential between. I'm not going to spend all day arguing about these pictures, but you're not trying to make a differential between Iggy Pop and him. You don't know what.
No, it's talking about Iggy Pop. I'm not making a difference.
No, I think.
Me and Ed are saying it's just part of a fine tradition of self-expression.
You're saying all bands should do that.
I just think he's an idiot. But,
he's a total dickhead.
But I think if he burnt himself, hopefully he'll read this. If he burnt himself in, Tiananmen Square, we should print it. It's artistic expression, isn't it?
Oh, don't kid yourself.
I'm not kidding myself.
You're more an artist than I am. Artistic expression. Do me a favour.
Do you know anything about Morrissey, Lawrence?
It's a good thing. I like a band that make everybody upset. It's good.
So do I. It's great.
That cover.
You heard them screaming in the office.
It's great. That hasn't happened up here for ages. Hasn't happened. I don't think
I keep dropping these little digs to everybody. Oh, you're past it. You're old. Because that's what the band made me feel like. Yeah. And I'm younger than half of them. They did make me feel I shouldn't be doing this anymore. Really. In fact, I'm not going to do it anymore after this week.
You reckon?
No, I'm not.
You're going to carve pension on your forearm.
I'm thinking of leaving this week. I'm going to...
What, because of the Manic City Preachers?
Yeah.
I love that. Join the band. Join the band.
I am, that's
David Quantick turned 30 this week.
David Quantick turned 30. Manic City Preachers cut their arm off and I retired.
By the end of the 70s, the rules had changed again. And basically that kind of smeary ink denunciation of megastars, agitprop, kind of ran out of steam. Everybody wanted pop, the glossy stuff. A new era of gloss was upon us, and that was a difficult one for the NME to come to grips with.
See, the terrible thing about punk rock is that he said anyone can do it, everyone should like all types of music, there should be music for all, and unfortunately that's come true, and it has of course devalued this wonderful secrecy of rock music and this underground thing. It doesn't exist anymore.
You've got these magazines like Q, which should be called Z. I mean, about which records to collect. Who collects rock and roll records? Rock and roll is not something you collect, right? It's something you stick up your nose, right? And it's respectful. I know people who read Q who list their records alphabetically. And so when the Happy Mondays went from the Happy Mondays, right, to the Happy Mondays, they moved the Mondays from the T to the H. I mean, serious. Train spotting scum, right? What was the question?
The one that's gone from... Yeah. Bye.
Brendan. Yeah. Could you just give us an identity, say who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Brendan Fitzgerald and I'm the assistant editor / production, which means I'm basically in charge of putting it together.
And it's, 12:30 on a Friday?
Yep.
What have you got to come in and what's your
Still
deadlines?
to come in is page 3, 4 news. Steve Lamack's still got to write his Manic Street Preachers thing. We're still waiting for the Wedding Present concert review. Public Enemy hasn't been written yet. Still waiting for James to finish his cover feature. He's a day and a half late. I'm doing the singles now. Terry's just finished them.
Is this normal?
Actually, this is a difficult week. We've had a few problems, as you're aware, with the people getting excited and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the workload just goes crazy by the end of the week. We were just trying to jam it all in. And we go down the typesetters on Monday and shovel it all into the pages.
So this is now the most intense period?
Yep, this is like head down, go for it.
Singles reviews, which you've handed in today. What time did you get them in?
Handed them in about 12:30.
So what were your singles of the week?
Single of the week was Sinead O'Connor, would you believe? My Special Child.
Oh, this time in mind, I've just got French geezer. Just throwing yeah, it's come along all right. It was looking like a disaster 24 hours ago, but now it's looking like a veritable cornucopia of Moz-style facts.
Have you got anything else to do today?
Yeah, I've now got to write the gossip column.
So you're just going to talk to James now?
You've got to ask him what he's playing at. There we are at James' desk, and he's not here.
I've got 10 sort of snippety stories, but really need about 18 or 19. Sally, I'm on a desperate gossip trail here.
I don't actually. I saw him going out with his coat on, but I don't know where he's gone.
God, really?
Yeah, I think he's just gone to get a sandwich or something, but I'm not sure.
Right, I hope so.
So what, he's just going to wait around for him?
Well, yeah, hopefully he hasn't flown off to New York or something, but you never know with James, he may have.
Following the drama of the last 24 hours, there doesn't seem to be anything phenomenally stirring emerging at the moment. But we are running the Scar Yourself for Life picture.
All right, lovey.
Yo, 1, 2, and
Something like that.
Someone's just told me that the person who's writing your cover story has
He's
gone
to a bloody leg with Paul Morley. Paul Morley's got some book or something. What's he got? TV programme. So James has gone to hang out. I shall speak to him when he returns.
Terry! It all gets done.
Danny's taken the responsibility for writing it because as it is such a sensitive issue, it's a thinly veiled editorial, I think, really. It's just Danny's going to try and make it as responsible a report as humanly possible.
We haven't found out yet who's behind it is on the current hand in glove. So if any of your listeners can tell us, we'd be very keen to know that.
You're writing the review of the Manics at the moment.
I'm writing the review of the Manic Street Preachers, taking answer phone messages and fending off phone calls saying, can we send you a demo tape?
How long till you're supposed to get your copy?
It was about 2 hours ago. Going well, isn't it?
Do you ever think that you could do without the ulcers?
I don't get us.
No, you've got to stress manage.
Yeah. Gina.
Hello.
How you doing with the old widows?
How am I doing? I'll just do a little word count for you. See how it's going. 659 words, and I'm only just got to talking about the actual gig.
I saw James flitting back in there.
Lie. Just go through the roster. And give me 2 huge whopping lies on a couple of your bands. Make some up and ring me back in half an hour. All right then.
Got to finish this.
James, what time is it? What is it? Quarter past 2.
Yeah.
You just nipped back in the office now.
Yeah.
How long have you got before you've got to hand this in?
Well, it should have been in this morning, really.
How far have you got to go with it?
About 1,000 words. A third of the article.
Alright, how you doing?
Alright.
How much longer?
Just been off to the Morley League.
Yeah, classic.
Why?
It's a bit different to a pop league, but it's basically a league because it's just loads of food and free drink, and then you have to sit down and watch Paul Morley's new TV programme for half an hour, which is actually not too bad, I have to say. It's all right. The weird thing about it, obviously, is because as it happens, it is Paul Morley, you know. So he's done all the stuff that probably quite a few people in there wouldn't mind doing after this.
Oh no, it's less horrible. I can deal with it black and white.
So
it looks like history.
What image do you want where? You want that one on the cover?
That's the one for page 3.
No. Can we not take the glistening out of it?
No, that's what wounds look like, guy.
NME goes snuff.
What else have you got to do today? It's Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. I have already worked out what's in next week's paper. I can tell you, but it's the Sinead cover, which is literally a week and a half before anyone will see it. So it's all sorted.
And you just finish off the Manic.
Yeah. I'm a bit slightly more happy with it now, but it's one of those things where it's got to go now, you know. This one's just got to be finished and out the way, really, because we're getting late, so it's all right.
Can he play the guitar now with that arm like that? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He couldn't play it before. Yeah, can you put me down +1, lovey?
So what? 10 minutes?
No, less. I'm just doing the last lines.
Okay, bring it down, please.
James shouldn't have gone. Fact.
James actually gave me the first page of the cover story. He said, "Oh, you should read it into the microphone, Mark." But I think you should read it in.
Yeah, I'll see if it's any good.
Give us the first couple of paragraphs.
All right, as it says, as a fan, I can do anything. I can dress up in fancy clothes from London, New York, Barnsley, and stand near the Pet Shop Boys. I can wave goodbye to the love of a woman and replace it with the love of a band. I did. There comes a point where you have to stop all this. Hopelessly reproducing the words of idiots in bands. There comes a point when the fan in you says, "Stop killing me." That's a bloody lyric from the Primitives, his old favourite band. I hate the opinions and feelings and experiences and thoughts of mediocre musicians. Stop killing me. I despise the desperate... This is bloody seminal, isn't it? I despise the desperate relationship between creativity and commerce. And as a fan, I can say these things, knowing that every one of you will agree. Stop. You can buy a Stanley knife and carve yourself a niche. That's very good, in the local press. Or you can refloat that little bit of honesty that sunk deep inside you. Chris wants to open a nightclub in Blackpool. When Neil wants to open 3 bottles of French champagne, I want to close my account. Seriously. This is his resignation letter, isn't it?
I'm just, you know, it's the last mail call of the week, just in the vain hope that we might have a handwritten suicide note from Morrissey or something.
I think we know too much about Morrissey, don't we?
This is made the week, isn't it? Really, sudden rock and roll, you know, mythology being born out before your eyes.
That's it, finished.
Oh no, Jez, I was expecting some momentous thing to happen as you dropped your copy.
Nothing happened. I don't know, where is everybody?
Too late, Who wears all the subs?
It was essentially a 70s phenomenon as far as I'm concerned. That was its golden day. Not that there's not good stuff written in it now, and there are not important bands around, and there's not fun and laughter being had by lots of people. I think it's very much rock-led, the NME. It wasn't really itself in the 60s when it was a pop paper, and in the 80s it tended to try and follow dance a bit more probably than the readers would have liked. You know, the readers essentially are Smiths fans.
Hi, Stuart or Andy. This is Simon Benny speaking, manager for a band called The Cuckoos. Just phoning to see whether you'd received a tape of 3 of their songs that I popped in the post to you a couple of weeks back now.
Pedantic nonsense alert. First thing Monday morning, come in for a nice quiet day and get a letter directly addressed for me saying, please don't include me in that miserable section of NME readers. You get your facts right, brigade. Blah, 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 blah. I don't need this.
Every magazine, well, the good magazines, have a period when, through nothing but the zeitgeist of the times, they do the right thing. As, say, Rolling Stone did in the 60s for the hippies, and then the Face It in the 80s for the style crowd. And in the 70s, the NME did that. When punk was about, it spoke to and it spoke for people. But when, say, the big teen thing was going on with Duran Duran, Wham, all those people, the NME was, frankly superfluous. I don't think it's any mistake that its sales have started to climb again, though nowhere near what they were when I was there. With, the rise of the Manchester thing and the independent bands, which you can write about in an NME type of way.
Yeah, Q sorted. Totally sorted.
The Roses case apparently is fucking...
Oh, it's finished?
Yeah, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
Can you just tell Danny that it's the whole front page?
Absolutely. How excited.
The wheel has turned again. I mean, NME has traditionally done best when it's been behind noisy, disruptive rock music.
It's the Roses case, I don't know, but whatever it is, you got to go there.
And whenever noisy, disruptive rock music is in vogue, then the NME is like King Arthur, buried under the hills.
Hello, can I speak to Danny Kelly at NME, please?
When it's time for the rock to get noisy, NME will erupt from the grave.
Hello, it's Andrew here. I've just been told by Yeston, who's running out of the door, to hold the front page to tell you...
That will sort of brush the clods of earth.
He's run down to the pub to tell Mary Ann to go there immediately.
It will look around for its, rusty broadsword.
The Stone Roses results are coming through, which is like the court case that's been running for about 2-3 months.
And sort of rush out to smite the musical oppressor.
But I've got to go, I'll catch you later.
Yeah, sure. When's your deadline?
I don't know.
Do you actually still read the NME? That was brilliant, by the way.
Very occasionally.
No, and people think that's a statement in itself, saying no, but you don't. I mean, I don't go to concerts anymore and stuff, and I don't think you necessarily... There's a saying that when you get to 25, something terrible happens to music, and that's quite true. You engage people in conversation, you become ever so patronising because you try and take an interest in these nitwit groups they're talking about, and it all becomes this very small little thing. And once you get a life and a career and stuff outside it, you don't... And so I necessarily wouldn't. That's not a damnation of the NME or anything like that. It's just the fact that I don't read it because what it has to sell, I don't want to buy it.
Signed to get him for 20 million. You're joking.
Well, I lie when I said I don't never see it. I saw it about, I don't know, something on the cover I got it for, and I just thought it was shocking. I thought the writing was shocking. I thought it looked awful. I hate the way the print still comes off on your hands.
Right.
I just thought it was horrible. It wasn't anything like the paper I used to love when I was a little girl.
If you mention like the word Select or Q magazine in the NME office, it's like a swear word. It's like, you will end up working at Select.
Well, a lot of them have.
I think that there's a certain element of going on to become something that they certainly would have disapproved of at an earlier age. But that's always the way. There's no reason why you should applaud what came before you. That's why punk happened, because people wanted something of their own.
Do you think then that going through the NME is just like growing up in a way?
Oh, it's very much like that. I mean, I think, you know, you got to sleep with a lot of people, you got to take a lot of drugs, you got in a few fist fights, and you even learned a couple of things. You know, what could be more like university than that?
Right, you sub it, and I'll correct it on here, all right?
What generally happens is that young people can't imagine what it's like to be older, and older people can't remember what it was like to be young.
So I remember going in to see my headmaster at Stockport Grammar School and telling him, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I want to be a journalist, I want to write for Stockport, for the New Musical Express, and he laughed and said no. I remember that laugh to this dying day, because it made me do it.
I think punk sounds awful now. I mean, I hear it now, it just seems like another person. They can have it, they can have my memories if they want. Like Total Recall, you know, because I don't want them. I have nothing but embarrassment about punk in that period.
Miles, are you there? Okay, it's 1:45. I don't know whether you know. I suppose
Hi, is that Sally?
It's on the Radio 1 News.
Yeah.
That the judges ruled in the Stone Roses' favour for that high.
I share the embarrassment when it comes to, you know, some of the things that were written and some of the judgments in The Boy Looked at Johnny. But I mean, but you know, it's such a long time ago. I mean, it's kind of beyond embarrassment to me, you know. And I don't, you know, I don't know. If you can't like act like an arsehole when you're young, then when can you? You know, that's my basic attitude towards it. You know, I mean, we can't be. I think, you know, there's always been one side of Julie where she's always been 46.
I don't understand what he means by that.
Hi, Sally. Just a quick question. Philip said that the band have signed for 20 million. Is that pounds or dollars? Thanks.
Most people, I think, who get into music journalism tend to get quite insular lives, but it burns people out.
Well, you're 31 now.
Yeah, I tell you why I carry on writing for the NME, because
I'm happier working for the Telegraph than I would be working for the NME. I think it's time for the 22-year-olds that are around today to work for the NME. I mean, I've written a book with George Michael, and I just think it would be very strange if I was wearing my Lewis leather jacket and going down the marquee to review some band. You know, I mean, I've still got a leather jacket, you know, but this one costs 600 quid. You know, you grow older.
You know, I've done other things. I was a pop writer, then I was a blockbuster writer, then I was a columnist. I've written 2 films for the BBC. Then after that, I guess I have to go to Hollywood and I have to write for films properly. Then after that, write my literary novel. You know, as the Americans say, life is a journey. And like, you know, you go through all these stations and you stop a bit of that one and you go on and do something else.
And with the NME, I can say that this record is like the blood-curdling screams of a PCP-addled element with space cancer gnawing away at its spine as it coughs up its fungi-infested lungs, and its testicles are being crushed in a huge, creaking cast-iron vice. Where else could I write that and get paid for it? Where else? You know, the NME is the only place, you know? What was the question?
I don't think there was one.
When Tony said 46, maybe he meant 46-inch bust.
This is where you came in last week, isn't it?
A triumph of its kind.
A triumph of colour publishing. Slap as the paper goes down to the desk. Still hot from the printers. Twin Peaks issue. On the front, all is calm. Pet Shop Boy standing in Serene Street in Prague.
James Brown resigned from the NME in October 1991. He still contributes on a freelance basis.
But inside there is blood and filth and depravity. There it is, page 3, lead. This looks worse than the colour one, actually, or nastier, if you see what I mean. More child scaring.
The Manic Street Preachers, for real photographs, have appeared in the band's own publicity material.
Stone Roses free from court. This happened yesterday, as you well know, because you were there.
The Stone Roses won their case against Silvertone and signed to Geffen Records for $4 million.
That's timely. Sinead O'Connor Single of the Week by Terry Staunton.
Yeah, wouldn't you want to read more about that woman next week?
Sinead O'Connor appeared on the cover the following week. She is still talking to the NME.
The actual Bob recipe there, Bob Dylan's recipe. Cheese on toast with pickled walnuts. I would say that's understated publishing.
Bob Dylan appears on 12 pages this week, probably 13 in fact.
Andrew Collins was made features editor in August 1991.
And there it is. I think it's pretty good. We've managed to get the Dylan stuff into it without swamping the entire paper. Pet Shop Boys are huge. The Manic Street Preachers is controversial. Stone Roses is interesting. So it has the combination of things that I'm looking for most weeks.
The NME is 40 years old in 1992 and is still the biggest selling rock weekly in the world.
The weft and weave of the entire history of rock is herein contained. You can't help but be impressed, I can tell.
Sleeping with the NME was presented by Mark Thomas and produced by John York.
Now I come to think about it, it was probably a good idea to do a programme about the NME.